You're listening to the Coop Homeschool Podcast.
This is your podcast for community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling. I'm Mandy.
I'm Jessica.
And this is The Coop. So I'm afraid my kid is going to miss out.
What?
So this is the Hesitant Homeschooler episode 2 of our series.
Yep.
And this is my kid is going to miss out.
Yeah.
And that's why people choose not to homeschool.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about what does the classroom offer, how not to miss out on that classroom, activities, events, experiences, and then lastly, what you are missing out on by not homeschooling.
Oh yeah, I like that.
So let's start off with our scoop on the coop. Jessie?
All right. So we have a lot of mythology books in our house. So it's been something my daughter gravitated towards once we were reading our story of the world and it got into Greek mythology. She liked it, of course. And so then I started accumulating more resources for her. So we have a series, it's like a graphic novel series, and it's about each of the Olympians. And so it's pretty cool. So I got the rest of the series. We had like 6 of the 10. And then I got the rest of them recently. And so she devoured the rest of the books. And then I got us a myth atlas.
Oh, I think I saw that in your house.
Yeah. So it's not specific to Greek mythology, but it's an atlas of different kinds of mythological creatures and deities or whatever across the world over time. So it's actually a really cool book, but that was super popular in my house for the last week that we've had these new additions to it.
Fun.
And then there's been rereading of old things. And part of the renewed interest is that my daughter and I have been reading the Percy Jackson series.
Yeah, you mentioned Percy Jackson. Who is Percy Jackson? What is that?
Well, it's just a contemporary fantasy,
Okay.
youth fantasy. I don't think it's young adult. I think it's like middle grades or tween style. And so it's just a fun adventure book, and it's tied into Greek mythology.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it's really cool. You get to hear about the Olympians, and so then now my daughter's also researching outside the book,
and with the Olympics coming, that'll be a really fun thing to.
It's very loosely tied in.
I know
they're the Olympians, but they're not really.
Right. Yeah. The city of Olympia.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking.
Yeah. Not
the Olympics,
those.
but the ancient Olympics.
Right. Yeah. So then, it's just been really fun. And then we had family over, and even they were like going through the books. And there's probably 4 of the God's books in my car right now, because a couple of the cousins brought them in the car with Sophia, and they're all reading them. And the car ride was super quiet the other day because they're all just reading one of the graphic novels.
It's crazy when you read them to think that people actually believe them to be true,
right?
And that's what I tell our kids, like whenever we do talk about mythology, like. These are things that people actually believe to be true.
Right. Yeah, and it's fun. And then I'm on book 4 of Percy Jackson because I've been having fun reading it. So now I'm just doing it as an audiobook whenever I have free time to read. And then my daughter's just finishing up book 2. And we watched the movie, which ended up being really disappointing. So any Percy Jackson fans out there, you can probably relate. The movie was trash.
Bummer.
And it was hard to even say the movie was good in its own right. But anyway, the Disney Plus is going to be working with the author and do a TV series, a live action Percy Jackson TV series. And it's supposed to come out this year. So I'm really excited for that because it has the potential to be really awesome. And so I'm hoping they can capture that.
That's so cool. Yeah. And, I just love this just in having homeschool mom friends in general. Like, when they're doing something, you're figuring out the whole what books to have for Greek mythology, what shows to watch, what literature books to read.
Right.
So it's kind of nice that it's all done for me, and then I don't have to buy it. I just have to have a conversation with you and take notes.
Exactly. And you already have one of the series. I don't even know if we've talked about it yet, but over there in your bookshelf, you have I don't know what it's called.
The Greek god?
The Hopeless Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
And that was at Costco, right?
Yeah.
So it was a gift to Sophia from one of her aunts because her aunt knew she'd love it. And so she devoured that whole series within the week of Christmas. or 2 weeks of
That's
Christmas
awesome.
and got her all the extended versions and all that stuff. So she's just really like these like fiction books based on mythology. And
Yeah,
so
well, I thought of
that's
that
a good jumping off
because
point.
Sophia was doing that. And I was
Right.
like, well, then I know my daughter, who's very similar
Yes.
to her, would eventually like this.
Yeah.
So I knew that's in our future.
Yes.
And Costco has such a great supply. At least the Southern California Costco's have such a great supply of books, and it's hard not to stop there when I'm in a hurry.
Totally.
And the kids love leafing through it, and yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, my scoop is the girls started lacrosse, and my son started flag football.
That's awesome.
I mentioned it in our previous podcast
Yeah.
as well. But so we're now on to week 3, and it's only like 7 weeks, so it's a great amount of exposure to see if that's something they want to continue. And my son was super excited for flag football, and now he's actually getting to do it.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because kids grow and mature at different levels. So he's still like the size of an 8-year-old, and there's some 12-year-olds that are the tallest or the oldest point in his age group. They are literally, there's probably a 6-foot kid in there. Like his pituitary gland went crazy.
Right.
So I'm like, it's so fun watching my son. He's a cautious kid. So he's just kind of watching it all happen. My husband said, it was so cute. He's like, he's got the greatest seat in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's hard when you have kids double your size,
Oh, yeah.
you know? So it's a really great experience for him. He's having a blast, and it's so fun watching him out there. He's caught a number of footballs, and, he hurt his pinky the other day, which was great.
Right.
Like,
It's a
you
good
want all that
experience.
stuff to happen in such a controlled environment, right? So,
really
and the
cool.
girls are learning lacrosse, which is totally foreign to me, but I love that. It's an East Coast sport, but they said girls lacrosse is totally like growing in leaps and bounds.
A lot of my ballerinas do lacrosse.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
their schools. Yeah.
Oh, funny. Yeah, so now they're learning the cradling. So they were learning picking it up and I don't know what the word is, but tossing it into launching it into the goal.
Yeah.
And now they're learning the cradling. So
That's really cool.
yeah, anything to get them, like you're talking the movement, like podcasts, like get them out there moving, doing things, learning new skills, forming new synapses. Like, it's really great for them.
Definitely.
All right, so let's start with our topic, hesitant homeschooler number 2. My kid, people are afraid my kid is going to miss out if they're not in the classroom. We hear that constantly, and me having major FOMO has that too. So real quick, for 1 minute, I'll say, what does the classroom offer? It offers group work, projects, teamwork, class parties, perspective of another teacher or potential mentors, friendship. Now, we're not going to talk about socialization. That's a whole nother, what'd you call it? Beast.
It's a whole different beast.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about social opportunities that specifically the traditional school system offers.
Community. But we won't talk about developing their emotional intelligence and making friends. Just in the friendship in the forms, in the idea of community.
Right.
They also miss out on like creative ideas coming from other people and tried and true methods and, special projects, special field trips, a big community, and with events like a jogathon and classroom choir and being with peers and pep rallies and dances and chess club and yearbook and lunch groups and cheer and there's also learning to be independent from the family and more self-reliant. And electives like pursuing your passion in a group setting with other people who have the same passion as you. So those are all the things that I think are valid concerns from parents.
Right.
And so now we're going to talk about, or anything else I missed out, by the way?
No, I don't think so. I would just say it's really funny going through that list as a person who always wanted to homeschool my kids. I hear that list and I see the merit in some of those things, and then some of those things are the reasons I want to homeschool, and so it all depends on your individual value system.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not like someone in the classroom does all those things
either. These are potential.
But they have the option to, and like being in a band and stuff.
Right. If you're at a good school that offers those things, then you'd miss out, but not everyone even has that as an option.
Right. And they don't, and so, okay. So now we're going to talk about how not to miss out on those things.
Okay.
And I divide them up into 3 categories.
Right.
There's the community aspect.
Right.
There's the academic aspect, and there's the character development aspect. So let's start off with community. Mm-hmm. So I have 4 groupings of communities. So first, let's just go easy, simple group work.
Yeah.
How are they going to get their group work in?
Right.
So with families that have siblings, your group work is built in. Even if they're different levels, it's actually like really enhancing to siblings to have to learn how to work with kids who are younger than them and older than them.
We know. We've discussed it before. That's something we value.
Yeah, and that's an additional skill that they would actually not get in the classroom.
Right. And as a person who had an only child for 6 years and had begun homeschooling, what I really just had to do was reframe my thinking, because the classroom, the academic classroom, is not the only place to have group work.
Right.
And so I found those opportunities through dance class, through music class, and other places.
Yes,
and so just like I'm sure we're going to talk about the whole time, it's about reframing.
Yeah, so that's exactly. So think of what you just said, whatever they're involved in, there's going to be group work.
Yes.
Because there's going to be other people there.
Right.
There's going to be navigating all of that.
Yep.
Okay, there's also people create co-ops.
Yep.
See that as their group work.
Absolutely. They have to learn to compromise and work together.
Yeah, and I was talking to my husband about this last night, actually, and he was like, well, it's not like they're involved in group work all 40 hours that they're at school.
No.
They're only involved in group work for a glimpse of time.
Right.
A lot of it's independent.
Right.
So think of that, the amount of group work they have, we might be getting more because we put them in the homeschool performing arts school.
Right.
They're putting together the homeschool arts program that our kids were in was phenomenal. You were the dance teacher.
Yeah.
There was an art teacher, and then there was a theater teacher, and they're working together on scripts, on the art that goes along with it, making the puppets and all that stuff. So there's a lot of homeschool vendors out there that you can get that group work in. If it's not through siblings and if it's not through a co-op, you can actually hire a vendor and go to that. But it's not for 40 hours a week.
Right.
It's for a 1 hour or a 3 hour, and then you still have your kid for the rest of it.
Right. And another amazing, great free resource is the library.
Oh,
they have book clubs, and they have different, interest club groups, chess club that meets at the library. So don't feel limited that if you can't create a group for your kids, and you can't pay for one for your kids, that you're done. You still have the opportunity to utilize community resources like the library.
I love that. Yeah. And okay, so then there's class parties. That was its own category for me.
Yep.
So we joined a homeschool charter school, and that provided, the first couple of years we were there, a 1 day a week for 3 hours.
Yes.
And the whole reason my kids were in that was for the class parties.
Yeah.
I wanted them to have the gingerbread making. And so I made them make gingerbread,
Right.
I wanted them to have the pumpkin contest. So that's where my focus was. I didn't care what they did the other days. If they had homework, I didn't even care. I'm like, when are the parties and what do we need to do for them?
Right.
And then you and I were on the booster club, making sure those parties happen, making sure there was pizza at the Valentine's party at the end of the school year.
And the fundraiser opportunity. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So there are homeschool charters that you can put your kids in for class parties. You can do class parties for co-op. So we had our co-op. The first year of our official co-op,
parties.
Every month was a holiday.
Yeah.
There's a holiday in every month. There's St. Patrick's Day, there's Easter, there's Christmas, there's Halloween, there's Friendsgiving or Thanksgiving.
Right.
And then I'm sure we figured out something to do in September. Maybe that's when we went to the pumpkin patch. Or back to school. And then we even did the yearbook party, and we printed off pictures, and you got the slider ins, and they slid in, and then they even signed each other 3x5 cards.
Stay cool.
Yeah, slid them in. Keep in touch.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can do that through your co-op. You can have class parties even in sports. There's the end of the season. You can decide to host a party, or somebody else, another mom might host a party.
Right.
Especially if it's a long sport, or if it's an annual dance class where you kind of commit for a year, which I didn't know that when we originally signed up for dance, that it was like this cycle
year
or
round.
season. Yeah. But we did that one year. My daughter came to your class on 10 a.m. on Monday mornings, and there was just one other girl there. And she was a friend of ours. So we were like, let's do a Christmas party. So right afterwards, we had a number of our other friends show up.
Yeah.
And you had gotten permission to use that room and everything. And I brought actual Christmas decorations. I brought like Dickens carolers and the red tablecloth and candles.
I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, and everybody brought something to share to eat. And then I brought some craft for them to do. You had a blanket. They sat on a blanket. They did their craft. And then you had something for the moms. You gave us all tutus and you led us in a dance. And then the kids got to line up against the mirrors and watch the moms do a choreographed dance.
Yeah, I kind of forgot
I know.
about all this.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
So that was just created with the dance group. So it just takes one of you. So if you're not that way, find a friend who is. Right. And then when she suggests something, say yes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. What can I do to implement that? So that's just some solutions to the class party issue. And then you have family, like do the Valentine's grams, invite the cousins over. You all make your Valentine's cards. You all make your little paper bags with the heart doily on it. And then you go put your Valentine's in with it. And then you sit there and you read it. And there you go. You had that moment. And you don't need to put them in school 40 hours a week to have that moment.
Right.
I say 40 hours a week, but I know it's a little less than that, but there's still the driving to the before and then the after, especially if you have to do after school care for any reason. Okay, then there's events. There's fun events like the jogathon, dances like prom, pep rallies. So I was pep commissioner, so I led all the pep rallies at my high school my senior year. I was on the gym. There's hundreds of people around me, and I'm the one putting on the pep rally, right? And going around,
yes, you were,
right?
Yeah.
The pep rally. And I knew to get the football players during football season to be the actors, because now everybody will come. And that was a really good experience for me as a leader, a potential leader, and fun for the people who attended to have that community and support that community. Fun for the football players to see people cared and all that. So that's something you can't really do in homeschooling. Like not a pep rally so much.
No.
So there are going to be some things you miss out on, but there are other things you can do, like the dances. Jesse, we've talked about.
Yes. So I've mentioned it before, but this is a great opportunity to talk about, again, reframing and finding unique things. And so sometimes it's just about changing your perspective. Just because you went to a prom doesn't mean that your kids need to go to a prom. But what kind of big formal type of event can you offer? And so I just got really lucky that I got involved in a homeschool group, even though it was kind of incidental. I just met these kids that were homeschoolers at the community college when we were in high school and kind of got involved in their group. And those parents wanted to give their kids some cool experiences. These were conservative parents who didn't like the idea of prom, but wanted to come up with something unique. And so they called it the formal. And so we all got our dresses, and then boys got their suits or tuxes. And we rode some different kinds of public transportation. We had a formal dinner, a 3-course meal, prefixed menu, that the moms all organized
on a train.
For us. Well, the meal wasn't even on the train. They decorated the train with hors d'oeuvres and stuff. And then the train took us down to the restaurant. And then from the restaurant, we took a ferry across the bay to an island where they were showing a play. The play was not good, but the parents tried.
It was at the Old Globe Theater, right?
No. We went to Lamb's Player Theater, Christian theater company in Coronado Island. Okay. And it was a one-man show about a leper. So anyway.
But that's what was showing.
Not the highlight. Yeah. Right, that was what was showing. That was not the highlight of our trip, but we didn't care. The rest of it was great. We were all probably giggling the whole time.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of high schoolers.
You're making memories together. Right. And that's what I think is the core of what we don't even realize it. Like we're afraid of them missing out on stuff because we have such great memories doing these things, but there's other ways to have these great memories. And what I love about these types of events is you can tailor them uniquely to your kids group. Or your group of kids, right? And the moms can all work together, or the dads, or whoever. And even homeschool vendors do this kind of thing.
Well, for instance, you were talking about our Booster Club experience, and we just saw the other schools doing daddy-daughter dances for the public school kids, and we were like, we're doing one.
Yeah.
So we and a few other moms got on the committee, and we planned a daddy-daughter dance for our kids, and it was fantastic.
It was awesome.
And it wasn't, 500 kids. It was 15 other daddies. And you know what?
Didn't matter.
It was perfect.
It was. It didn't matter how many people were there.
Right.
Our friend was the DJ.
Yeah.
I did registration. I even had pink eye.
Oh my gosh.
I had pink eye, and everyone came up. I'm like, hey.
Yeah, because I didn't want that job. Oh, and I had my baby.
Yeah. And then another friend was the photographer, and she set up her photo booth. Everything was volunteer.
Yes.
And the only thing we had to pay for, and then another friend went and got all the food and set it up on the table.
Yeah.
And then another friend handled the craft that was for people who didn't feel comfortable dancing.
Right.
And so that was all volunteer. And then all we did was we charged, I think, like $10 a
family,
or $9 a family. We figured out how much the least amount we could charge that would pay for the rental of the barn. We did it in a red barn.
Right. And it happened to be, so it was a beautiful venue, but it was a part of the community. It was a city-owned building. And because we were a school, a part of our charter school, we got a great rate for the building. And it was I loved it. It was fantastic.
It was.
And now they never need a daddy-daughter dance again.
I know. Well, I do have another daughter.
Your other daughter didn't go.
So I'll probably put one on at my house and set up the outside with some twinkle lights and
That's true. Yeah.
And have the same DJ and I can take a pretty good picture. I have a photo booth set up. I can do that. So that's just, one or two examples of how you can still have a dance. You can still do that kind of stuff. And then it's just everybody you know and love.
Exactly.
And that's what's
the community
super special.
is tighter in that way. Like I'm still friends with most of those people that I went to the formal with. There's a few that I wasn't friends with at the time, but most of that group has been my core group of friends for most of my life.
Yeah, and you married one.
I married one.
Yeah, we talk a lot about this in our introductions podcast, so check that out because you'll get to hear about the love story of you and your husband and how you met through that group too.
Right. And so community, like I was thinking about that when you were talking about the 40 hours a week that they're away from you. And I started thinking about the moms who are maybe military wives. And so you think about people who don't have family or friends, because you were saying then if you don't have a friend group, do the family, do the cousins. But there's some people who just don't have anybody, even if they're not military families. And so that's when it really becomes critical to find your community, even if you're an introvert, your kids might not be, or your kids are still going to want some experiences to look back on. And so it's just a matter of finding the right group. And for me, when I got involved in MOPS, when my daughter was a toddler, that was a great group, the moms of preschoolers. It made a community that I needed for that time. And what it did for my mental growth was show me that I need to put myself out there sometimes to find a group, not even for me anymore, but now for my daughter.
Right. And
the best kind of group is when it's for all of you, because if you don't have family or friends, you sending your kid to that school for 40 hours isn't creating a community that you're an active part of necessarily.
Necessarily,
It still involves you having to put yourself out there to be a part of the community. And so if you want to homeschool, you can. You still just have to put that effort in. You're not going to naturally find a community at school if you don't, as the parent, do that.
Yeah, and we talk about that in episode 27, Mom Friends. Yeah.
Yep.
And so for more about that, and then we're going to be doing a Coop group workshop.
Yes.
And seminars. So, and that will include probably some of that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and then yearbook. We talked about so part of the event is being part of having a yearbook.
Right.
Having a yearbook signing party. You can do that with pictures. As long as you have one person in the group that likes to take pictures, you can do that. Even if you're not part of a group, you can take pictures throughout your child's year.
Right.
Create a yearbook with them using Shutterfly or just the slide in, which is what we did, the slide in pictures.
Right.
And then have their siblings sign it, have their cousins sign it, have their daddy sign it.
Right. Teachers.
Yeah. It's just, if they go to dance, the teacher can sign it and put in a picture of them dancing.
Yep.
If they take an art class or they're doing outschool.com,
right,
you can take a picture of them doing outschool,
yeah,
put that in there, and then email the teacher and say, hey, will you send me a message to put in their book?
Right.
You can do all that sort of thing and still have a memento for them.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then clubs. Clubs are part of, I grouped it in with events as well, events and activities. So clubs are something that's their elective or that's their passion and something they want to. So like you mentioned the chess club. So I was taking my kids to chess club at the library. They're a little too young, so it was a little overwhelming for them. But there was definitely like a regular group that was coming after their traditional school. They would come there.
Right.
Because it was offered at like 3 or 3:30.
Right, because that's the thing. The traditional schools don't all offer these things. Some
Right.
do, but many people have to seek it out, or it's an extra thing on top of school, after school. You know?
So when you think about it, if you're in the classroom, if you're in the traditional school, their interests you're still having to pursue outside of the traditional school.
Yes.
So I think that's something to remember. You're still spending those hours out doing that stuff.
Right.
Whether you found it through a sports group, a dance group,
Right.
a theater group, a club at the library, a club through a community center, whatever. Right. You're still pursuing that outside. That has nothing to do with the classroom. Right. Yes, in high school they offer
sometimes
clubs.
Yeah. I was so much anymore.
I was part of the Christian club, which I don't know if those are existent anymore. Right. But I was part of the Christian club. I was part of the Auto Extreme club because I wanted to get in the yearbook picture.
You're hilarious.
I was part of ASB,
right.
like leadership club. And you guys had leadership.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The parents
group.
organized, we called it the Independent Study Student Union. And so we had our own ASB, and parents made sure we ran it professionally, and we hosted events. We put on a banquet to raise money for Solutions for Change, homeless solutions, a family homelessness solution center.
So cool.
Yeah.
I love it. So, and then you actually have more time to do stuff like that. You have more time to work on entrepreneurial skills, right. Put on a fair, all during the school day.
Yep.
And it doesn't take up family time and free time in the afternoon.
It's not extra. It is.
It is the curriculum. So now let's get to, as part of the community, friendship's a big part of the community. And I have a friend who was really worried about pulling her kid out of his school to homeschool him and wanting to figure out how to plug him in somewhere in order to have that community. And here's the thing, like we have communities everywhere we go. It's just a matter of what you said. Are we showing up for them?
Right.
Are we putting ourselves out there to be part of the community? Whether you're part of a church or a sport or a theater group or your neighborhood,
right.
Have you ever seen kids playing in the neighborhood? Like if you have, find out where they live and go talk to that parent and make friends with them. Bring them brownies and say, let's hang out. So the personality of the parent does make a difference in all this and having to create a lot of that. So if that intimidates you, find a friend who will do it.
Right.
And then you're hooked up.
Right. Or again, put your kids in activities, because hopefully, like we found each other through Mandy putting her kid in an activity that I happened to teach.
Yeah.
And so then from there, we organically grew a friendship, so sometimes it's about putting your kids in things in hopes of making a relationship. If you're afraid to join things for you, join things for your kids, and help there, because they'll inevitably be with peers, and then hopefully you find someone to connect with, because you help pull me out and do things that I might not normally say yes to, but I say yes because I want to do it with you.
Oh, you. And you know what? That reminds me, Little League, I was team mom out of the 11 seasons we did, fall, spring, fall, spring, fall, spring. I was probably team mom about 6 times. And I did the bare minimum. I didn't want to do the sponsorships. I didn't want to sit in the dugout. I only sat in the dugout if there was nobody else to sit in the dugout.
Right.
If someone didn't show up to do it. But I made sure to but meet all the moms and dads, because I was making a DVD and we have to organize a party and a coach's gift and all that. But by doing that, I met another one of my really good friends who I have now traveled the world with.
Yeah, so
cool. And if I hadn't done that, she wasn't interested in making friends. No. She even told me that. When you came up to me, I was like, oh no.
Right, there's that one.
Yeah.
There's the PEP commissioner.
Yeah, there's the PEP commissioner. But she was willing to open herself up to me, and now we're really good friends. So it's just being willing, and when you show up somewhere, you show up with a smile on your face. And we talk about this in the Mom Friends episode. Yeah. Okay, so that's one way. And then there's also homeschool classes.
Yep.
So the music studios we were at in San Diego area, those were all homeschool families that were going there because it took place during the day. It was theater, art, and dance. And I could have easily, when all the moms are standing there waiting to get in the last 15 minutes, I could have easily buddied up with people. I didn't feel like it because I was like, like I have my people.
And I was there. Yeah, I was literally there.
Yeah. So, but it's just like like that was another opportunity.
Right.
And you know they all homeschool. So trying to find other homeschoolers to have a co-op with, you won't always find that in sports. You won't always find that in dance.
No, yeah.
But if you enroll them with a homeschool vendor, which there are a ton out there, you can go on Facebook and ask about them.
Right.
You can do your own research. You know, a good homeschool mom is researching something
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. Like do a little bit of work and it'll have big payoff.
Yeah.
And then the friendships will form and you just have to give it time and positivity.
Yes.
And again, there will be some things you don't have, but there's other things you're getting. So you have to weigh those pros and cons.
Absolutely.
Okay, so should we go on to the next category?
Yes.
Academic. So I just have 2 points for the academic because we can all offer curriculum, we can all offer
and
teaching.
We've discussed
and
that.
we've talked about that. Okay. But a lot of what we hear is my kids will miss out on having a teacher other than myself.
Yes.
Or developing a mentor other than myself.
Right.
Or a different person's perspective.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to just look at this real quick. It's from, I'm looking on the computer. It's from inc.com, inc.com. It says, science says the most successful kids have parents who do these 5 things. And then the subtitle is, children who grow up to be high achievers have parents who do these things differently. So out of these 5 things, one of them is they get engaged with their child's learning. So these are talking about traditional school kids. Right. So keep that in mind. According to researchers in England who conducted a study in which they surveyed and interviewed academic experts and reviewed recently published international studies regarding parental engagement and child academic achievement, they found that parents help young children the most by reading to them, listening to them read, helping them learn letters, numbers, songs, and nursery rhymes, interacting positively with them, and modeling parental literacy. When kids are older, they do better in school when their parents go on field trips, participate in the classroom, show an interest in school, and monitor how the kids are doing with homework and tests. So I really feel what that's promoting
is homeschooling.
Yes. Is the more parental involvement there was, the more they were active in their child's education, the more successful that child was.
Yeah.
Is it saying that those parents were experts at the museum that they went to? Are they a docent at the museum? No. They're just there. Involved.
Yeah.
And so that is across the board what the research is showing.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Teachers across America are always saying parent involvement makes all the difference.
Yes.
So if that makes all the difference, then who's the better mentor for your child?
Right.
Who's the perspective that you want for your child?
Right.
Okay, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go to the New York Times article. Students learn from people they love, putting relationship quality at the center of education. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't have a lot of quality relationships with my teachers in the classroom, right? Yeah. I loved them because I was a kid who was supposed to love my teacher, and they were nurturing and loving. I have a lot of friends who are traditional school teachers who, like, that is their calling, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
But if you're hesitating to homeschool because you feel like your kid needs this other person to breathe life into their heart and mind, you know, keep these things in mind.
Right.
So, so this one is from the New York Times. Patricia Cole of the University of Washington has shown that the social brain pervades every learning process. She gave infants Chinese lessons. My cats are meowing in the back, so... All right, so she gave infants Chinese lessons. Some infants took face-to-face lessons with a tutor. Their social brain was activated through direct eye contact and such, and they learned Chinese sounds at an amazing clip or rate. Marcus had to clarify that for me. Others watched the same lessons through a video screen. They paid rapt attention but learned nothing. I was almost going to bring this up in the movement the podcast that you were talking about last week. Extreme negative emotions like fear can have a devastating effect on a student's ability to learn. Fear amps up threat perception and aggression. It can also subsequently make it hard for children to understand causal relationships, or to change their mind as context changes. Even when the conditions are ideal, think of all the emotions that are involved in mastering a hard subject like algebra, which involves curiosity, excitement, frustration, confusion, dread, delight, worry, and hopefully perseverance and joy. So with that in mind, like think of so there's so much to unpack there, but you think of the Chinese study. So if the tutor then is making a big impact because it's a person versus a screen.
Right.
Now think of that tutor is their most beloved person in their life.
Right.
How much more are they going to listen to it? If we know that they learn best when their parents are involved, and if that parent is the one teaching them, like how much more are they going to connect? And then the fact that all those emotions affect their learning.
Yes.
I hear from almost every new kindergartner parent, when they drop their kid off, they're not only are they crying, but a lot of their kids have fear, right? And they want to walk them in, and and the teachers say, it's okay, this is normal. This is normal that your kid is afraid, that they're crying, that they just want to go home.
Right. They have separation anxiety.
Yeah. And it's like, my spouse is like, because they're not developmentally ready.
Right.
They're not developmentally ready. So, so there's that aspect.
Yes.
So who do you want to be your kid's mentor?
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's the question. Do you want that mentor to be someone you don't even know?
No.
So think of the classroom. If they're really missing out on this mentor, which I know my friends who are teachers and they're amazing and they would make wonderful mentors. But are they all like that?
Right.
How would you even know? Do you know their political leanings, their religious leanings?
Right.
Do you know their weaknesses and their strengths? Like, do they even know their own weaknesses?
Do they actually have the same passions? Because when I think of mentor, I think of something specific. You know, they're mentoring them in literature because they have this deep passion for literature. You know, so I think of mentors as being something more very specific and passion oriented.
Right.
In which case,
you're not going to get that in the classroom.
No. And you might, again, have wonderful people and have wonderful general mentors there available, but it's not what we're thinking of.
Yeah.
You know, it's not what we're meaning necessarily. And so I think it's important to really think about what you're imagining when you're saying my kid's going to miss out on this opportunity.
Right.
You know, because mentorship should be much more researched and specific if you're looking for that person for your kid.
And like you talk about your 6th grade teacher, right? Mm-hmm. So there are certain teachers that we can pull out and say, wow, they were amazing. Right?
Absolutely.
And so that's a really great experience that they would miss out on if they were not in the classroom, if you were homeschooling them. They would miss out on your 6th grade teacher.
Yes.
So out of all the teachers you had one
really amazing teacher.
Yeah. So I had great teachers all growing up too, but there's none I like really point out, right? So I'm just saying that's the cost benefit analysis you have to do.
Right.
If there's a potential one teacher that makes an impact on them,
right.
Great. Are you giving up 40 hours a week for 12 years of their life to have that one teacher moment?
Right. And then is it really at the end of the day missing out?
Right.
If the replacement for that is more time and connection and value with family or beloved, you know, adults who you trust to, you know, talk to your kids and do that.
Exactly. And just keep in mind, you do not know this person.
Right.
And maybe once in a blue moon, you get a teacher that you know.
Sure.
Or that your other kid already had.
Right.
But you don't know this person.
No.
So there we see a lot of complaints on Facebook of people pulling their kids out of school because of a certain t-shirt their teacher was wearing, like on the Zoom, right? And saying, wait, who is this person? And when they're sitting in on the Zoom classes, they're seeing like what is being taught and they're like, wait, I'm giving my kid.
I don't value that.
Yeah, and I'm giving my kid over to this person. And there is definitely a wonderful place for I mean, I was one of them.
No,
I was
totally.
a traditional school teacher.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like I come from a place of non-judgment and that I was that person and I was really trying really hard to build life and light and love into these children. And for some children, that is the only glimpse of love that they have.
But it's not better than a loving parent.
Right. So if you are a loving parent and the only thing that's keeping you, or one of the things that's keeping you or making you hesitate to homeschool, this shouldn't be one of them.
Right. No.
Okay, so there's a second aspect to academics, and it's the creative projects, field trips, and activities. that they get to do that you couldn't think of as a teacher.
Right.
So there's solutions for that.
Right.
Very simple solutions. So I wrote subscription boxes. I talk about them all the time.
Yes, you love them.
I love them.
They're
It's
great.
Like, it's
No,
like
they
a
are
gift in the
great.
mail,
Yeah.
right? And you subscribe to like an adult subscription box.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really fun too
fun.
to get.
It's party in a box.
Yeah, party in the box, and I love that. That's what subscription boxes are for people like me who have FOMO. And anytime someone has a subscription box, I'm like, I gotta sign up for that.
Right, I need that one.
Yeah, yeah, and even if it's just for 6 months or 3 months, then we see if there's a passion there and excitement there. Okay, and again, co-ops.
Yep.
Yeah, have your own little coop group. You can do the special field trips. There are field trips, like Legoland used to have a day where homeschool families could go. And
Six Flags does too.
yeah, and you could. It used to be $9 to get in. Now it's $30 for Legoland. Yeah. But we were organizing that, and then COVID hit. So, but so if as long as you have a certain quorum of people, you can get into places cheaper.
Yeah.
There are homeschool field trip vendors. So if you just look up online, homeschool field trip vendors or companies, you'll see them all pop up. You just have to find one in your area.
They help facilitate that because it is harder to get the group rates for things. And so they help organize field trips for homeschoolers. And then I guess I wasn't talking about the same thing, but Six Flags, Magic Mountain here in California, has an actual homeschool day.
Okay, yeah.
So they close the park to everybody
Oh,
else.
they do.
And you have to buy a ticket
that's
as
cool.
a homeschooler. And you have to show whatever proof they ask you for. But no, they have an actual homeschool day. And they had it since I was in high school.
That's so cool.
And probably before that, which means it's this cool long running tradition. So
yeah, and everyone you're walking around are homeschoolers. And then you might even make friends and find more people to join to your group or merge groups or whatever, you know. Yeah, and the vendors are cool too because they do infuse educational materials like prep materials or during the time. And then it might be a tour of a baseball stadium or a boat ride to Catalina. And then they've already reserved everything for you. And then you can make friends that way and find groups that way. Or if you already have a group, get as many people to sign up as you can.
Right. Yeah, I know. We had one that was canceled. Remember, we were going to a baseball game and we were going to get to be on the field.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I don't even remember why it was canceled. It was way before COVID.
Yeah, that was weird. Why was it canceled? I don't know. And then I've incorporated theme days. Right. We've done a couple of theme days. Those are fun adventures that classrooms don't have usually. Right. So you can do theme days. We have a whole bunch on our blog. Okay, and then unit studies. So unit studies are actually a really fun way to pursue an interest, have a field trip, and are much easier to implement that is actually harder to do in the classroom because they have to look at all the different kids and what they're able to do. Right. They can't afford 30 pig hearts for kids to dissect or sheep brains, but a friend of ours just did that.
Yeah,
did you see her Facebook?
We talk all about it in episode 29.
Yeah,
unit studies.
Yeah. That's all stuff you can still do at home. You just order the kits online.
Right. Either as your small family or with a friend or a group.
Yeah. So you can have plenty of enriching and wonderful academic experiences beyond the curriculum, which can be the same as the traditional classroom. Okay. So now my kid is going to miss out on character development. So that is a complaint. So I have it in two categories. Independence, becoming independent, and 2, diversity.
Okay.
So we're going to deal with independence first. Okay, first of all, I have 2 questions to ask. First of all, is this independence that they develop in the classroom real? Or are they now just dependent on their peers? Has the dependence shifted from the family to the peers? And is that even something you want?
Can I use the word groupthink?
Oh, yeah. Exactly. And imagine what becomes of our child's brains when now their dependence is on their peers' opinions, preferences,
So
bullying.
What this means by independent is pulling away from the parent. Yeah. That's all that means.
Right. So, and here's the thing. There is an addiction that I see and that I had as well, being in a traditional school, to BFFs. Because I try and monitor that with my kids. I try not to let them hang out too much with the same person because I want to preserve the relationship. Right. But then I also don't want an addiction to that person. Right. So, and so what I know as a traditional schooled kid, which was awesome for me and I loved it, with its pros and cons, I definitely needed that buddy there. I definitely needed that shield.
Right.
I wasn't independent. I needed that other person.
Right.
So
Totally.
that independence was not there.
No.
Like as
Oh,
a
no.
self-reliant person.
No.
And so so that's something to think about when you're like, well, I'm teaching my kid how to be independent by taking them to kindergarten. Are you?
Right.
Are you
Right.
teaching them to depend on a stranger you don't know as the teacher and a bunch of kids you don't know anything about?
To be away from you.
Yeah.
You're teaching them to be away from you.
Right.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, just real quick. You've mentioned how crazy it was to you to meet homeschooled young adults, you know, middle school, high schoolers, when you hadn't even considered homeschooling yet. And these kids are totally self-reliant. It was that idea. They're self-confident. They don't care if they're different than other kids. You know, they might be what you would think of as, you know, a little bit awkward or something, but that's because they're just different. They're unapologetically themselves, because that's what true independence looks like.
Right.
They feel confident. They can be themselves. You know, they aren't trying to conform all the time. They're not always looking around to see if they got the right answer. You know, are they doing everything else everyone else is supposed to be doing? Because that's usually what it's about.
Right.
And so it's just very interesting to meet truly homeschooled young people and kind of see, you know, the ones who've started their independent streak and see how they are. And I think it's a unique experience.
Yeah, seeing them with their own passions. Like I know when I was in school, if you had your own passion, if that didn't fit in with the group, that goes away.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what's also sad. So, so here's my second question, and we've already kind of alluded to this, but is independence from the parent and from the family a good thing?
Right. No, I don't think so.
Exactly. Like
I think it should be developed naturally over time, because there is natural separation.
Like biologically, it will happen. We don't need to accelerate that.
No.
Yeah. So think of that when you're thinking of, oh, it helps my child be, because I do notice like there's a certain strength in kids who have been in traditional school because they're used to being on their own and not depending on a parent, but they're just depending on different things that I didn't realize. You know what I mean? I didn't realize they were actually more dependent on their coping behaviors that are not functional,
right,
or on another person. It just happened to not be the parent. And think what comes with that. Now you are not privy to things that are going on inside their heads and in their hearts, and things that are happening to them, because who are they telling? They're telling their new parent, whether it be a friend or a friend's mom or their friends or their teacher. And they're not telling the number one person they should be telling. So now there's more secrets, there's more keeping to themselves.
Even inadvertently, not
on purpose. Yeah, it's just like not something they would tell you, because you have less of a relationship with them as well.
Yeah.
So if you want that strength, that inner strength to kind of be assertive and aggressive and self-reliant, try putting them in like a performance sport or theater, you know, type of thing. They do have to stand on their own. They do have to memorize their lines. They do have to face some fear.
Right.
You know, but it doesn't all encompass their learning. Going back to the emotional aspect, if they're in a situation of fear and they're not telling you, they are not learning.
No.
So, you know, sports can do that too. And you can be there for all of it. You can't be at a traditional school unless you're room mom.
Right.
So, so anyway, so that's independence. The second one is diversity. So I always get a kick out of this one, because let me just ask you a question. In a classroom, what are the ages of the kids?
Same.
The same, exactly.
Within 1 year.
Yeah. And what is the regions that they're living in? Are they being bussed in from all over? No.
Neighborhoods.
They're from the same neighborhoods.
Right.
So likely within the
similar demographics.
Yeah. Economic situation, ethnicity, a lot of that's going to be the same. And I have just one little example. I had a friend who's a teacher who's awesome, and her kids are Korean, and they were in an Orange County school district that was mostly Korean. And then she got hired to be a teacher in another school district that was, she moved her kids over there, and guess who everybody was in that school? White.
Right.
So she joked about it. She's like, I was hoping to get some diversity, but we just went through from all Asian to all white.
Right.
There's no diversity in their classroom, and it's not the same. And I have to say, probably in the inner city, there might be actually a little more diversity.
Right.
because you have all sorts of people are living in a
but
more
demographics
vulnerable.
measured in certain factors are the same.
Yeah, right. So what I have found in our co-op, even though we all are able to survive on one income,
Right.
so that is a certain sameness. Everything else is different. We have different creeds, different religions. We've said this a lot. We have different
Political ideas.
We have different ethnicities.
Right.
We have someone from Afghanistan. We have people from with a Mexican or Latino background. We have people from Europe like me.
Right.
So we do have diversity.
Yeah.
But it's like you're gonna have some sameness wherever you go.
Yeah.
So don't use diversity as your ruling mark. But I have heard that.
Yeah.
So okay. So we've already talked about the last category a bit. So I'm just gonna kind of go over it real quickly. Let's talk about what you are missing out on by not homeschooling.
Right.
So in the community, you have less autonomy to pick a variety of people.
Right.
You're stuck. That community is stuck with whatever community is there.
Right.
You can, as a homeschool mom, be super intentful of where you find your community.
Yeah.
But if you're in a classroom, you don't have time to do that. And you get to be there for all of the community. You get to be there to see their coping, their interactions. Right. You can be part of the solutions. You can learn parenting skills from the other moms and dads in the environment and come up with solutions together. You get to plan the parties or attach yourself to someone who will. And you have more time to pursue sports and clubs and your child's interests. So that's always the big thing I heard from when I was a traditional school teacher. Kids going from homeschool to traditional school, they said, I miss doing dance.
Right.
That was the major thing that they said they missed about homeschooling was I could do dance. They were able to go to dance school all day. Yeah. Their mom was there and whatever and teaching them in their breaks or whatever, but they were able to go to a lot of dance classes.
Yep.
Academically, what you miss out of is you don't get to be your child's mentor or find a mentor for them. Like you're mentioning your friend who's a writer, our friend actually, but your bestie, who's a writer. And you get to choose her to mentor your child in her writing.
Yes.
And I can do that for my sister. My sister's a writer too, and she's offered to help the kids write a chapter book. Right. And that's something I can do versus I wouldn't have the time to do that if they were in a classroom.
Right. And same with my students who I become a mentor for, who want to learn to become a teacher, a dance educator. And so that's something that people can make a relationship with me where mentors are available everywhere. Yeah. Again, it's about finding similar passions and the right fit for your kid. And it's not likely in a situation when you're talking about so many people and so few adult educators, a school system. Just not as easy.
Yeah, totally. And that teacher could be the best teacher in the world and spark so much in your child, but they also have 29 other kids in that classroom. Right. And they might only get them, if it's a rotating one, they get them an hour a day. Right. So how much, and then you don't even know their perspective. So you want a different perspective, but do you want a perspective that's actually going to change who your child is based upon a stranger? Right. I'm all for getting input and feedback from other people and teaching my children how to
in the industry.
And how to navigate that. But you don't even know what's being fed to your child.
Right. When you're talking mentorship, it's a lot more delicate than I think a lot of people consider at first.
And different perspectives, there's not merit in different perspectives unless it's a different perspective that is helpful to your child becoming who they were called to be. And then also with academic projects and activity, what you miss out when your kid is in the classroom, you miss out on getting to do it with them. I love doing those subscription boxes with them. It was fun. I just sat there and helped lead my son through making a robot and my daughters through making a reflective mirror, puzzle and, experience.
So cool.
Yeah. So I got to just sit there and that was our school for most of the day. We did some math and we did some dailies, piano. That was
and then you get to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then
you know what they did. So then when you're sitting around the dinner table, you talk about it. Yeah. You share it with dad or whomever, grandma, grandpa, and so you can help develop that opportunity to connect and converse over what they're learning.
Yeah. And you can go deeper. You're not asking what they did. You actually are going deeper into what they did.
What was your favorite part about doing this?
Yeah. And you're not pulling a destroyed robot out of their backpack, right?
Right.
or some destroyed,
Right.
broken mirror that, you know,
and you can talk
it's
through
right
the
there.
hard experiences. Oh man, that didn't turn out the way we thought it would. But you don't even know if it did or didn't turn out that way at school unless they tell you and share it with you.
Yeah. And then if anything happens in the night and they totally tantrum or freak out on you, you don't know what happened during that day.
Right.
So you don't know how much, I mean, we should always have grace, but you don't know how much grace to have or to say it's time for bed.
Right.
You know, you don't know what to help them through.
Right.
So that's what you're missing out on when they're in the classroom. You have the freedom to do what is best for your child. Last thing, character development, we talked about that.
Yep.
Independence. You know, you can track your child and find appropriate times to challenge them.
Right.
And encourage them when developmentally appropriate. And that's what you miss out on when they're in the classroom. They're being challenged in ways, no matter what, that might be beyond them, that could be causing trauma that you don't even know about. That could, a lot of things are good for building their strengths, but there's a lot of things that are traumatic that actually stunt their growth.
Yes.
And you're not there for it. So that's what you're missing out on. And then the diversity, getting to have the multi-age experience and not just peer-oriented experience. You're missing out. If they're not homeschooled, you are missing out on a number of multi-age experiences that they could be having.
And you want different kinds of diversity? Go to the city next door and be involved in community there. You know, find other ways to find the diversity that you are looking for.
Yeah. I mean, we're all adults. We all can do this.
Yes.
So just 3 little takeaways. 1, find ways to create the events and activities you feel your kids are missing and personalize it for their interests, or attach yourself to someone who can.
Right.
Number 2, bring together groups of friends until you find your coop group. Yes. So your coop group might take a while to find.
Yeah, it's always evolving.
Yeah, don't give up. Try it, and then as people come and go, you'll eventually find your group.
Yep.
And then 3, utilize sports, homeschool vendors, theater, and outside activities that are normally called outside. Make those the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So, all right. So that is, my kid's going to miss out.
Yes.
They're not going to miss out. They're gonna at
live
least
a
have an
really
equal,
rich life.
awesome,
Yeah.
rich life, and maybe even better, depending on.
It's just hard to compare.
Yeah, it is.
They're both great. They have their great aspects, but don't think that you're missing out on stuff if you don't go to the school.
And I only really addressed the stuff that what we thought they were missing out on. I wasn't even addressing all of the extra stuff that you could be doing.
Totally.
So, all right. So let's do our joys, Jessie.
All right. So I mentioned last week that it had been my daughter's birthday, and so she has a cousin who's 9 days younger than her, and so we did a joint celebration. We had some family come into town, and their Nana loves to cook. So it's always her tradition to have a birthday dinner that they've requested. So the 2 collaborated, our little, fun kids.
So cute.
And then, so she chose unicorn guts.
Oh, yeah.
And he chose dragon steak.
I love it.
So that was their birthday meal, and that was fun to coordinate all the different things to go along with it and come up with unique creative names, because that's what spoke to these new 9-year-olds.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
I love that they have their twinning birthday every year. That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine is, I talked a lot about Atlas Crate, Kiwi Crates. So, and I already mentioned it. I had so much fun putting together their Kiwi Crates, and there was even a little frustration, a little like, you skipped a step, you know. But hearing that, like my son said that was the favorite thing he did that day was make that robot. You know, it's just I got to be there for it. What a gift that was, you know, and so that brought me joy.
Awesome.
All right, so hopefully this hesitant homeschooler is not so hesitant anymore.